I went to the show, like for the curatorial classes we had to go for an assignment, never having heard of them or like known, and I was so confused. It was, I can't even put it into words, like, I don't know.
There was a lot going on in that show.
And it was 2 floors and
it was a very comprehensive.
I don't know.
What kind of, I'll show you a few not artifacts, but a few pieces from it. But there was a section on, there was definitely a section that was more about their AIDS activist work. There was another section about this concept called the Misgeneral Idea Pavilion, which I'll show you. There was a lot going. This is a group that upon first, and I mean I'd heard of them before, but I'd never actually seen an exhibition of their work in person until the AGO show. So I did appreciate it quite a bit. But this is a group that at first glance, I mean, is really multifaceted. I mean, it is. They were a trio, Toronto-based, but also they lived in New York as well. Toronto-based trio made up of 3 artists, Felix Hartz, Jorge Zontal, and A.A. Bronson. They actually worked from 1967 to 1994. This is a long partnership. And in 1994, 2 of the members died of AIDS, Felix and Jorge. Felix Hartz and Jorge Zontal died in 1994. A.A. Bronson is still alive, and he continues to make work about the group. He curates the group's legacy, but he also makes his own branded activist work. And so these artists, they lived in Toronto from 1986 to 1993, then went to New York really quickly, and then back to Toronto until finally 2 of the members did pass away in '94. So again, a very but maintaining a partnership with New York as well. So this is work that so there are AIDS specific work, and then there's also again this sort of larger cultural work that's getting at not just gay culture, but museum culture, and this kind of questioning the idea of a museum installation of creating culture, actually. So there's a lot of really interesting, just a lot of interesting ideas that they had. But again, this is the AIDS lecture, so I will talk more about their AIDS work. So again, here's an image, Playing Doctor, 1993. These are the 3 group members, and they focus on the pill. They focus on the drug AZT, because again, 2 of the members were taking this drug to stay alive, to fight their illness. So this idea of the pill, the fetishization of the pill, and this idea of the pill being in multiples, and I'll show you an image of that later. The multiplication of the pill is a theme that goes throughout their work, and so emphasizing the medical aspects of AIDS and HIV, and how that often gets overlooked in AIDS activist art. I mean, you don't really see that kind of attention to the drug, for AIDS research, drugs, to the delivery of medicine. You don't see that as much in Grand Fury or in ACT UP. You see a different sort of side of things. So just to kind of show you, their earlier work focused on this idea of this general idea. This was a pageant that they created, a beauty pageant that was, and I'll quote, to capture glamour without falling into it. So the first Miss General Idea pageant was held in 1971. A Vancouver artist, Michael Morris, won, and he became the first Miss General Idea. And there was a pavilion created every year. They would create these pavilions. There was there was staging. There was this whole apparatus behind what Miss General Idea meant. So this is it doesn't exist anymore, but this is the 1984 Miss General Idea Pavilion. And this image was included in the show at the AGO. There was a lot of documentation of the events that they had staged. So they focused on, again, the production and dissemination of art's setup material. What goes into making an exhibition? What goes into putting on a show? The background to that. Again, and this is before AIDS becomes kind of the focus in their activist work. So they're questioning what is an art exhibit? What is an art group? I mean, it's very, very, very meta, very like upper level questioning about documentation, about what is the art artifact, what is the art work, what is the performance. So this is part of the installation of the AGO, the 1984 Mission General Idea Pavilion Armory. So again, and these poodles come up in their work, that you can kind of see them in the coats of arms. And then this whole series where the poodles are in different sexual positions. There's a trio of poodles that are doing it in every way possible. So this, and there's there's a lot going on here. There's a lot about the gay culture, about kind of not just shocking the public, but kind of almost parodying what goes into a museum and what goes into a museum exhibition. So another part of their cultural production was File magazine. So starting in 1972, they created this kind of, not a parody, but kind of a reconfiguration of Life magazine. So it's the same font that Life magazine had, that just reorganized into File. And what they did with this was just, they used it as a means to disseminate not just their own ideas about contemporary art and culture, but also to kind of curate the media stream that they were seeing. So this is even back in the 1970s. They're seeing a flow of information coming through the media, and this is their attempt at curating it, at kind of adding their stamp to the information and to the images that were kind of circulating in pop culture at the time. And so it's, again, they're dispensing with, at the same time that they're fascinated with the museum and kind of the production of the museum spectacle, they're also moving outside the museum and kind of fetishizing the avant-garde magazine, the idea of an art magazine or an artistic or an artist-led publication. So again, it's very Dada. It's been likened to Dada quite a bit in their way of producing and distributing kind of non-museum, non-object art. So to get back to HIV/AIDS, in 1991 they created this installation. Again, the pill, AZT. It makes its reappearance here. So again, this is 1991. I like the way it's described here. They talk about adapting the viral logic of simulacrum. And they're going on this idea that, from writer William Burroughs, it's about this phrase, language is a virus. And so they took this idea, language is a virus, from this writer Burroughs. They took this idea and then they took it and they applied it to the literal virus, and then the drug that combats the virus itself. And so what happens when you are exposed to multiples? What happens to the image? What happens to the meaning when there's so much repetition? Especially in the gallery. And this is made for the museum, for the gallery space. You have the giant, the giant pills as well as the ones that are kind of studded into the wall. And it's interesting because it loses its meaning, but then it takes on another meaning. And this is, of course, a beautifully staged picture, so you can see the lines of convergence. And there's an aesthetic quality. But then you're constantly reminded that these are pills. These are not just little abstract little lozenges. These are pills that represent 1 year of AZT. So the amount of medication that an AIDS patient takes to stay alive. And when you think about that, then you think about the production of that medication, the pharmaceutical industry that profits off of it, but also needs incentive to create more effective treatments and the funding channels behind that. So there's actually quite a bit when you see a little pill like that. It is actually, it's hard to separate it from this entire apparatus that allows the pill to be distributed, that allows the pill to have an effect. This is the sculpture that was put right outside the AGO, but it's been distributed in many places. On the left, this is General Idea. On the right, Robert Indiana's this love logo. So again, the AIDS logo is aping the love sculpture. And so this was 1987, was General Idea sculpture. And the logo was mass produced as well. It was distributed. You saw it in the very first image where they were all standing in that room. This was the here again, you see that it's about logos, it's about graphic sensibility, and it's also about just putting it out there. There was a time in which even talking about AIDS in polite company was considered like a really rude thing to do. So this is coming out of that milieu. So again, but it's also interesting how the one symbol, the one image can stand for so much more. As we saw with silence equals death. It's AIDS. It's also, if you think about the sculpture that's referencing the love sculpture, AIDS is a consequence of love. Love can be a consequence of AIDS. I mean, there's a reflexive property there, and those are linked. You don't forget sculpture on the right when you see them on the left. You don't forget it when you see the the AIDS logo. And again, it's reproduced pretty much everywhere. It's in painting form, wallpaper. It's a symbol not just for what it stands for, but actually it becomes a symbol for a general idea, the collective themselves. Finally, I want to show you a work that A.A. Bronson, so the surviving member of the collective, he created this piece, Felix, June 5th, 1994. He staged it in 1994. I think 1999 was a reproduction of it. That's why it has 2 dates. But this is his friend's collaborator, Felix Parts, and another member of General Idea. And this was taken shortly after his death. Bronson arranged everything very deliberately to show things he loved, the things he surrounded himself with in his final hours. And it also shows the corporeality of this disease, the toll that it takes on the human body, in a way that, again, all of this slick graphic representation that we've seen, which is very effective, it skirts around that. So what are your reactions to something like this? Combined with pictures?
Did he use the actual corpse?
Yes, this is his friend.
No, it makes me want to cry.
It's really sad, isn't it? Yeah. It's very moving. What else?
There's like such a contrast between what he's wearing that makes me think about who he was and his personality and his style of clothing versus what he's become and how it's different.
Yeah.
But connected. But even though he looks so different, he's still that same person with that same face.
Yeah. He's the person who bought that wacky shirt. Yeah.
I'm not sure what there is to say about this, but there definitely can be something said about like all the colors. Like he definitely purposely like used like really bright, brilliant colors. Maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's what Felix wanted to be surrounded with, like lots of bright colors to make him feel less sad. But there's something to be said about it.
Yeah. No. There's definitely, it's a study in contrast. I mean, visually, it's a very interesting image. I mean, this is staged, this is staged quite deliberately. I want to bring up the point, or get back to the point where, this idea that we see an individual who's ransacked by the disease, who has succumbed to it. And it's that idea that we saw in previous weeks, where when you have the story of the individual, and you see that individual person, somehow there's a way to connect that. So think of the image of the starving girl, Kevin Carter's photograph from last week. Again, that was when you see one person subjected to inhumane conditions or who has suffered in some way. There's a way to build a connection. So by showing his friend, his collaborator, his longtime partner in General Idea, and showing it's also a fearlessness too. It's saying, it's saying, look at this. This is what AIDS does.
Somewhat unrelated, just talking to the Fire in My Belly one, remembering this from class, after they took it down, because this was in the high seek, and Bronson requested they take it down as well, after they removed the first one from the field.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking of talking about that. Yes, so this was, I don't know if you all caught that, but yes, video, he requested that this not be shown. So yes, this was part of the hide and seek originally. But again, so it has a lot of history. So it's interesting too that the word Norwitz video was too shocking for audiences, but looking at a dead body, you know, of a person who died is not.
I don't get it, so they didn't, this was up, but they took down the video?
Yeah, they were taking down, yeah.
So he wanted this taken down too?
Yes, as like solidarity, because the video was being censored, so his work should also be censored. So it
Did
was
they
sort of,
realize it was a real person though?
they did realize it was a real.
No, because some people might look at
Well,
it
some-
and not
yes.
realize at first that it was.
Oh, of course, no, of course, some members of the public might not, but the curators and, and the people reviewing it, and yeah, that's interesting, though. It could be that they just didn't.
I don't understand exactly why they didn't.
It's
It was scary and it scared me, but I don't understand why it was taken down.
It was a religious aspect, so this idea that public funds were now being used to attack religion. But again, it was a very unnuanced reading of the work.
Does that also speak to the time period though? Because now, if something was put out like that, like today, I highly doubt it would be taken down.
That was just like 2 years ago.
Really?
Yes. The Hide Seek exhibition, I think it was 2010, I want to say, because I was seeing some